Sunrise in my eyes. My ride sweeter. Meet the one I love. I don't know how, don't know why. I've been toasting all my life. Oh, it's sweeter. I've been toasting all my life.
Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome again to Penguin Live TV. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. My name is Stephen, and you can see we've got Sue just above me.
Hello everyone, I'm very excited to be here tonight. And don't forget that I'll be reading through your questions on YouTube and endeavour to answer some with Stephen and I. And also we have some other wonderful rangers that will be answering your questions also on Facebook. Have fun.
Great. So you can see we've got a bit of new technology happening tonight. Sue is live on the air with us, so she'll be reading your questions and maybe passing them on to me, or maybe answering them herself if she's feeling brave enough. We also got a bit of an upgrade on our cameras as well, so hopefully the penguins are going to be coming nice and clear for us this evening. So we really are excited to bring this to you live in your own homes, and I hope you get to enjoy the penguins with us tonight. Now, I'll be your host this evening. I'm going to be controlling the cameras, taking you around this beautiful beach, making sure that the penguins are coming home and trying to get them in the best shot possible. And we do want to hear your questions, because they let us know what you're interested in and maybe the best ways we can answer those questions as well to keep you interested. I do want to say a big welcome to all of our new viewers who may be viewing for the first time. We're so excited that you're joining with us, and maybe let us know where you're viewing from. And a big welcome back to all of our return viewers who've been tuning in some night after night after night. It's fantastic that you're continuing to enjoy the penguins with us every evening, and we love having you guys here. Now, across this beautiful view just in the middle of the screen here, you are looking across Phillip Island. And I do want to take this time to acknowledge the land that we are on, and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Burrows, and pay my respects to the elders, both past, present, and emerging. As a beautiful island, Phillip Island is also known by the Burrows as Malau. And it's a beautiful land. And if you could let us know who the traditional custodians of the land where you are viewing from as well. Might be a few of you viewing from Burrows country, but I bet there's a few other traditional custodians in all over Australia and maybe overseas. All right, so we got this beautiful beach just in front of us here. There are people on the stands this evening. We are open to the public this weekend, so there'll be a few people around watching the penguins as well. And they're going to be in for such a fantastic evening. I know some of you who've been watching the stream have already come down and had a look at our penguins. I've been so happy to see your faces coming in and getting to enjoy this experience up close and personal. All right. Now this beautiful beach here is the Summerlands Beach, and the Penguin Parade helps to take care of this beach. We're part of the Phillip Island Nature Parks. We are a not-for-profit conservation organization, and our job is to help protect the little penguins, and we actually help to protect around 20% of Phillip Island, around 1,800 hectares of land. It's quite significant. And it's fantastic that people come to see our little penguins, because the money that they spent on their tickets does go back into protecting our penguins. And helps to go to protect our koalas at the Koala Conservation Reserve as well. We've got a few penguins on the water's edge I just saw here. I'm going to zoom in on them. Oh, there we go. Lovely. Fantastic. So there are already penguins at the water's edge, which is a bit of an early start compared to last night. And yeah, we do a lot of work helping to protect these lovely penguins, but also some other native species around Phillip Island, including koalas that are affected by the Australian bushfires earlier this year. And also Churchill Island, one of the a heritage farm here in Victoria, which is a fantastic place to go to. And I just love looking at these little penguins. I'm going to try and zoom in on them, test our new equipment, wonder if the cameras are going to be able to pick them up nice and clearly. All right. Ooh, there we go. Once they're into focus, they're a bit nice and clear. It's fantastic to see these guys home so early. Last night, what time did our penguins come in last night?
Our penguins came in last night at 8:25.
8:25. And does anybody have a guess in the comments of how many we had last night? I know some of you put your guesses in every night. Last night we had, was it 907 penguins? That's one of the first nights in a long time that we actually went under 1,000 penguins. And that's perfectly normal. Nothing to worry about at home. Our penguin numbers do fluctuate every single night. We never know exactly how many penguins are going to be showing up. So we do count them night after night, making sure that we do get a good idea of how the population is going. And right now it seems that the first breeding session for our penguins, where they have their first set of eggs, starting to wind down. The parents are heading into the ocean for a bit longer, trying to regain their weight, because they just raised their babies to adulthood. And they've lost a lot of weight because they've been giving up a lot of their own food to their babies. So it's perfectly natural that they're going to take a bit of personal time out on the ocean, getting fat again, and maybe getting ready to have their second clutch of eggs. Well, every night, the rangers who work here, all of the rangers who come down and help count the penguins or maybe talk to guests, we always like to have a guess as to how many penguins are going to come on an evening. In my guess tonight, I was very optimistic. I thought we might get 2,000 penguins. How many penguins do you think we're going to get tonight, Sue?
Oh, let's see. I'm going to say I'm going to be really optimistic and say 1,500.
1,500. So yes, we do like to guess every night, and usually we have a bit of a penguin lotto for all the rangers who work here. The winner gets a chocolate bar at the end of the night. So fingers crossed, either Sue and I are going to get the chocolate bar this evening, but we'll let you know what the numbers are tomorrow. Fingers crossed we also get really good numbers again for you tonight. But if we don't, as I said, don't worry. Our penguins, they do come in when they want, and they can spend days, weeks, even a month out on the ocean at a time. They do not need to come home every night. So there's no worries if they don't all come home this evening. All right. These little penguins on the water's edge here look like they're having a fun time in the shallows, keeping an eye on the sun, making sure it's not too bright outside, not too dangerous for them to cross the beach. They're just gathering patiently there. Maybe they're hoping another group of penguins, another raft of penguins is going to swim up to them and join them. Because our penguins firmly believe in safety in numbers. The more penguins there are, the braver they're going to feel, and the braver they'll actually be. Because in the daytime, let's try and get that into focus there. Lovely. In the daytime, there are predators who do hunt penguins on land if they're out in the open. And our penguins are aware of this. They know it's not too safe for them to be crossing this beach in the daytime, out in the open with little to no protection. All right, there we go. I'm trying to get that camera into focus. It's liking to focus on the wrong spot. I'll zoom out a bit, that might help. That's a bit better, there we go. So they're waiting until the sun goes completely down. They're waiting for it to be dark enough that those big birds of prey that do try to hunt our little penguins, they're going home to roost for the night. They're going home to sleep for the night. And once they go home to sleep, our penguins are going to feel quite a bit more brave, and they're actually going to start to slowly cross the beach. And you can see there we got a seagull or a silver gull just waddling its way across the beach. Our penguins are not too concerned by it, keeping an eye on it. Ooh, maybe they are a bit concerned. Looks like they got frightened by a little seagull. The seagull's not a predator of our little penguins. Don't fear. Our penguins are just cautious right now. Those silver gulls, they prefer to eat the scraps that people leave on the stands. They're a bit scavenger type of animal. They're not going to attack a penguin for food. I don't believe they would win that fight, to be honest. Our penguins are quite feisty little carnivores, and my money's usually on a carnivore in a fight. All right, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to scan across the beach. Maybe we'll see some penguins along the water's edge in this direction. Do we have any questions yet, Sue?
Yeah, so Stephen, Wazzy would like to know, how fast can penguins swim?
Oh, what a great question. So Wazzy wanted to know, how fast do penguins swim? Well, we like to say that their cruising speed is roughly 4 kilometers an hour, maybe to 6 kilometers an hour. The fastest we've ever recorded a penguin was around 13 kilometers an hour. And that's a real penguin sprint. They usually don't go that fast, but if they're trying to chase down their prey, they do need to hit those top speeds to be able to outswim the prey that they're trying to eat, those tiny little fish that penguins love. Now our penguins, their diet does consist of meat. They are carnivores. They love small fish, anchovies, pilchards. They'll eat baby fish of a variety of types, small enough fish that they can swallow whole. There's some penguins in the distance down there, just in the water. You might see them floating around. And our penguins have even been known to eat sea jellies, which we didn't actually know until a few years ago. It wasn't until our researchers were able to put a bit of a GoPro on the back of one of our penguins and send it out into the water that we actually saw penguins chasing down sea jellies and coming up to the surface and gobbling them down, which is fascinating. We never knew they would do that. And sea jellies don't provide the most nutrition to a penguin, but if their bellies are empty, maybe it'll give them a bit of comfort just to fill their belly with something until they get a nice school of fish that they can chase down. But our penguins, they've been out in the ocean all day. They've been filling their bellies with as much fish as they can, sometimes eating up to 30% of their body weight, just trying to fatten themselves up before they head home. We never know exactly how many fish our penguins eat on a night. We need our researchers here to do a bit of an analysis on that to get an even a remote idea of how much they manage to eat in a night. Oh, fantastic. 2 groups of penguins down there in the distance. Let's try and get them both on the screen. There we go. And they're just waiting on the water's edge as well. Doesn't look like our penguins are in a hurry tonight. But that's okay. They'll come home when they're ready. We'll be lucky enough to see them when they do come home. Now, if you wanted to help our little penguins, you can maybe check out our link in the video description to the Penguin Foundation. That is our charity organization. And any donations made to the Penguin Foundation will go back into helping our little penguins, helping our wildlife clinic, where we put our sick and injured seabirds into care. And mostly we'd find penguins in our wildlife clinic because they are the most abundant seabird we have in our neighborhood. Fantastic. All right, back onto these guys. They're still hanging around the water's edge, still getting ready to run back in. And in the top left up there, you can actually see another raft of penguins. Not ready to set foot on land just yet. Let's see what they're going to do.
Now, Stephen, Sue, but not this Sue, another Sue, would like to know, do they hurt their feet going over the rocks?
What a great question. All right, I'm just going to put pause on that question. I will answer it because there is a big raft of penguins causing a big ruckus behind our penguins on the beach. Look at those guys swimming in. That's a good number of penguins. They're going to be joining forces. They'll likely cross the beach together. So we'll keep an eye on these guys. Now, Sue was asking, do penguins hurt their feet while they cross the beach? And I think this is a really fascinating question because you're learning a bit about penguin biology. Is penguins don't actually feel through their feet. Their feet don't really have those nerve endings that sense pain. So penguins won't really notice that they're walking over sharp rocks. It won't hurt their feet at all. And our penguins are out on the ocean, swimming in the cold water. And basically the only place the water will touch their skin is on their feet because they don't have those feathers on their feet. So it might be useful so they don't get cold feet in the ocean all the time. They don't notice their cold feet in the ocean all the time, but they don't really have the nerve endings on their feet. So no, the penguins won't really hurt their feet. They won't feel like they've hurt their feet on those sharp rocks. They'll just scramble over them anyways. And I wouldn't worry too much. Even though they don't feel the pain, they're not going to hurt their feet much because their feet are made of very tough. They're not going to get easily scraped or scratched on our rocks. They got good soles on the bottom of their feet that help protect them. It's an interesting thing knowing that penguins don't really feel pain in their feet. We have to be extra careful around bushfires here on Phillip Island. Because if we get a bushfire near our penguin colony, we get those smoldering embers, and maybe a penguin walks across some smoldering embers, it's not going to realize that its feet are burning because it won't feel the pain. So we're very cautious around any type of fire, especially around the penguin colony. That was a great question, Sue. I really do love hearing all the interesting questions, wondering, trying to answer some of the more difficult ones or maybe the more involved answers. All right, it looks like this group of penguins is really getting ready to cross the beach. I'm going to try and zoom in on them. You can really see that they're eager to get across the beach, but they're not going to rush it. There we go. So I just heard over the radio, Tom is our penguin counter. You may have seen him in the producer's seat as well here occasionally. He is counting our penguins tonight, and he said we had a start at 8:25, which is good news for our penguins. They're coming in a little bit earlier than they have in the last few nights. Most nights have been around 8:30. It was 8:25 last night as well, so very consistent, but I do like when they come home earlier. It means they're eager to get home, might be something important waiting for them at home. Maybe there's some hungry babies still left in the colony that are just dying to see mom and dad because they're so hungry, and these parents just can't wait to see their babies waiting for them. You can really see them scrambling over these rocks. Luckily, our penguins are very low center of gravity. So even if they do slip, trip, and fall, they're not going to fall too far. They won't injure themselves over these rocks. Fantastic. Any more questions, Sue?
Yeah, definitely. So Anna would like to know, when does penguin mating season end?
When does the mating season end? Well, it starts usually in October, give or take a little bit. It was started earlier this year, but our mating season usually end around January. That's when the breeding season usually finishes for the year, and they move on to the molting season in February. So you're probably not going to see too many penguins breeding or mating in January. They should have their chicks should have their eggs already if they're going to raise their eggs into adulthood, but you might see the occasional last pair trying for eggs in January. And by February, those eggs should have hatched, and they should be definitely on their way to raising them into adulthood as quickly as they can.
Okay, everyone, and Stephen, the first group, there was 120 penguins.
120
in that very
penguins.
first group. Yep.
Wow, Tom's fast at counting. I was about to ask you guys how many you thought were in this group. 120, that's a really good number. Now, Tom has been working with us for a very long time. He is going to be very upset that I've forgotten the exact number of years. I'm going to say around 15 years that he's been working with us, and he's been counting penguins for a very long time. He's one of our more experienced rangers here. Whenever I want to know something about penguins, he's one of the rangers I go to and ask him the questions. So he's got 120 in that first group, which is a really good number for the first group to start the night. Let's try and zoom out and see if we can spot them all. And you can see they're spread out over these rocks. I don't know how Tom is counting them so early on. That's really tricky to do, because when you're from a distance way down the beach, you might not be able to see how wide that group is. You might think this group is only 5 penguins wide, or maybe even 10 penguins wide, but that group almost looks like it's 15, 20 penguins wide. It's really tricky knowing how to count those from such a distance. But Tom, he's an expert. He knows what he's doing. All right, I love just watching these penguins scramble over the rocks. Usually I'm on the stands at a great distance. I don't get to see them up close and personal like I do on these cameras. And it's just so much fun and joy for me just watching them slip and trip over their own feet. I know that they're okay. They're not getting injured by tripping and falling over. But they're just scrambling their way across this rocky beach, over the seaweed that we have there on the right side. And they're going on their journey home, which is fantastic.
Shelley would like to know, Stephen, are they scared of humans?
Are penguins scared of humans? That's an interesting question. Our penguins here at the Penguin Parade are not too afraid of people. They know that we're not a threat. We come here almost every night to see the penguins. And as long as we stay on our boardwalks in our enclosed area, they're not afraid of us. But I can tell you that when a ranger has to jump down onto the penguin pathways because somebody's dropped a phone or somebody's dropped a shoe, which happens surprisingly often with little kids coming here, then when we jump down onto the penguin pathways, the penguins are afraid of us, yes. They see us and they just scamper away. They don't want to get too close to such a large animal. Now they know that people don't eat penguins. It's not a source of food for us. We don't consider penguins food, and the main reason for that is apparently penguins taste absolutely revolting. Because the first Europeans that came here back in the 1800s, they found a really easy to catch bird here on the Summerlands Peninsula, and they thought, oh, this would be a great source of food. Let's cook it up and try and eat it. And they did, and then they threw up because it was so oily and so disgusting. It's a very good defense mechanism if you're a penguin. You want to keep yourself safe from humans, make yourselves taste really bad. Oh, just got somebody's back of the head there. I didn't want to get them in the shot there. So you can see our stream is pretty much gone. Not much happening there right now. And our penguins are slowly making their journey home. Some of these penguins, the last time they were here, they actually had this puddle, this little pond to swim through. And they're wondering what's happened to it. That's my favorite part of the whole trip home. but it's disappeared. That's just nature. It hasn't rained enough here for the pond to remain. All right, a few penguins into the bushes, going on their trek home. Now, I don't know if there's any chicks in the burrows up here. I did check a couple of days ago, and I didn't see any a couple of days ago, but I'm going to do another scan because I do like to know if the chicks are still there. But it doesn't look like there's too much activity happening in these burrows. No, nothing happened in these burrows. I guess the chicks have all grown up. They've fledged. They're on their own in the ocean right now. They're trying to take care of themselves. All right, let's head back to the beach and see what more we can see. Big group of penguins waddling their way across on their journey home. Oh, I just heard T, who also does the producer role here. She's counting the penguins on East Stand. She just had her first group of the night crossing, so you've got a few familiar faces around working tonight. And if you're lucky enough to be able to come visit us in the future, you'll be able to say hello to us in person. We do love talking to you all when you come and see our penguins. You can ask us all the difficult questions when you get here. Maybe save those really difficult questions for when you're here in person. That way we don't have to embarrass ourselves live on Penguin TV when we don't know the answer. Sue's very nice. She's not going to ask me incredibly difficult questions. If she doesn't think I know the answer, she's not going to embarrass me too much.
Definitely not, Stephen. What time do they head back to sea?
What time do our penguins head back to sea? Oh, lovely. The penguins are going across the Penguin Highway. So our penguins head back to sea about an hour before sunrise, which is really good because that's the darkness for them. All right, let's switch back to the main camera. We just had the Penguin Highway. Nice raft on the edge there. So our penguins come home about half an hour, maybe an hour after sunset. But in the morning, they're coming into the ocean about an hour before sunrise. And it's a bit more of a rush to get into the water. In the evening, you might see our penguins resting and waiting around and not moving too quickly once they get to the safety of the rocks. And that's because they have all night to make it home. But in the morning, it's a little bit different because they don't want to be caught out on the beach when the sun is up and those early birds, those early predators are around waiting for an early morning meal. All right, lovely big group of penguins here on the water's edge. I'm going to get you guys to give a guess as how many penguins you think might be in these groups. And let's combine the two groups together. Trying to get them all on the frame for you guys. It's just so many penguins. Wow, that's a lovely big group. I reckon we might be having more penguins tonight than we had last night, which is lucky for us, lucky for me. Poor Jordan and Megan had to deal with a lower penguin number than usual, and looks like I get the high numbers again. I think the penguins, they just prefer to put on a good show for me. Fantastic. I love how they just all join up into one big waddle of penguins ready to cross the beach together. And these penguins, they might not even know each other. I'm sure a few of them do. I'm sure a few of them would be maybe neighbors, or some of them might be husband and wife coming home at the same time. But for the most part, these penguins, they're not traveling together. They're not fishing together. They're there just traveling across the beach under safety of numbers once it's dark enough. All right, let's try and zoom in on these guys. See if we can spot anything interesting happening on the rocks other than a few slips and trips and falls. Love just watching them jumping over those tiny rocks. It always amazes me how penguins do manage to jump. Because if you look at a penguin's legs, you'd be hard pressed to be able to find their knees. Penguins don't really have the use of knees because their knees are, if you were to x-ray a penguin, their knees are located inside of their bodies, all the way inside of their torsos, and their knees are actually completely fused, so they can't bend their knees. And really, when you're seeing a penguin jump, they're getting all their height just by using their ankles. So they got some pretty strong ankles there to be able to jump over rocks that are half their height. But they're well suited to it. They're very, very adept at making their way home. Fantastic. Any more questions,
Alrighty.
Sue?
Well, is there a penguin leader, Stephen?
Is there a penguin leader? No leader. There's no penguin leaders in these groups. Sometimes we might have a braver penguin, or maybe a penguin who's a bit more of a rush than his other fellow penguins. But no, these groupings, they don't have a hierarchy. They don't have a leader that's blazing the way for them. Occasionally you'll see a penguin who's leading the charge, and then they'll stop. And then all the other penguins behind them start swarming them, going around and getting in front of them. So no, our penguins, they don't have a specific leader who has to be in front. But there are different personalities for penguins. Some are more eager to be at the front, more eager to get home. Other penguins, you'll never find them at the front. They're a bit more timid. They would much rather be at the back of the group. Alrighty. Lovely little penguins still hanging around on these rocks. Now these penguins, they're in no rush to get home. They're just waiting maybe for another group to show up. They're busy preening their feathers. And when they're ready, they'll head on their journey home. We're about to get a big influx of penguins to join this group. Can't imagine it's going to take them too much longer to make their presence known. And sometimes I really enjoy watching just a few penguins here on the resting rocks, as I like to call them, or the salon. And then a big group of penguins just surprises them from behind and start buffeting through them and pushing them this way and that. And those poor penguins, they were just happy relaxing there before a big, mean crowd just started pushing them side to side, carrying them along. And sometimes you'll just see them get swept up in the group and get pushed on their journey home. Here we go. Looks like they're starting to show up. We'll see if any of them get pushed around as they start coming through, if any of them decide to start joining them on their journey home. Lots of preening happening, penguins making sure their feathers are meticulous and well presented, making sure that they remain waterproof when they're out on the ocean. A penguin with a good coat of feathers is going to do a lot better than a penguin who's struggling to keep their feathers clean. Oh, bit of a slip and trip down there with one of those penguins. Keep an eye on him. Yeah, he looks like he's all right. He's gotten up, bounced back up, and he's on his way home. Or her way home. I can't tell from this distance. You can see some different postures in our penguins. Some of them are standing a bit more upright than others. Some are a bit more cautious and leaning down a bit more. And these guys, oh, what did you step on there? A little a branch there. Tripped up one of our penguins. That's all right.
Stephen, how about we radio the skybox and see if Tom knows how many penguins?
Oh, let's do that. Let's ask Tom.
Sue to Tom.
Sue's just going to ask Tom how many penguins we had in our last big group.
We're just wondering how many just came in that last group, if you've counted. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Didn't want to interrupt that information. Can you tell me how many there were, Sue?
So around about 280.
280 penguins in that group. That's a nice big group. So we've already had 120 and 280 in just the first couple of groups. That's fantastic. And we've got these lovely penguins coming up the Penguin Highway, putting on a bit of a show. And in the very top right, you'll actually see our mass camera still focused on that group of penguins at the bottom of the hill. Ooh, that penguin's got a bit of a scuff mark on his belly. He might have tripped over in something a little bit unpleasant. Something spooked him. What's going on there? Ooh, bit interesting. I'll have to have a look and see if I can see what's maybe spooked our penguins. It might have been a bird flying overhead. Could have been a loud noise. Maybe a Cape Breton goose is honking. Not 100% sure, as not much I can see on the camera, unfortunately. Oh, there's a wallaby just up here. Maybe a wallaby was bouncing through. Let's see if I can get them into focus for you. Now, the wallaby is not a threat to our penguins. Just right there. Cute little wallaby. Might stick his head around and let us get a good look at his profile. Wallabies are herbivores. They do not eat penguins. They do not attack penguins. But they are much larger than penguins, And the penguins are a little bit cautious around them for good reason. The same way that if you were down in Africa or maybe in Asia and you saw an elephant in the wild, you'd probably be very cautious around them as well. Deep down in your head, you know elephants do not eat people. They are herbivores, but because they are so much bigger than you, it's better to play it safe, isn't it? All right, that group of penguins seems to be stuck right there. They're not doing too much. I'm going to head back to the beach and see what's happening down on the sand. All right, so Tom just counted another large group. I don't know if it's that group that's already there, but he said there's a group of 230 that just crossed the beach. Might be that nice group there. I'm not sure where that group was. Probably not that group. That's definitely not 230 penguins. Must have been the group that had already crossed. Ooh, maybe. That's an interesting one. It's hard to tell. That's my fault. I wasn't looking at the beach when Tom radioed through those numbers for us. Wow. All right. These guys are about ready to come home as well. So fantastic viewing all around. Just love watching these penguins on their journey home. And some of them, they do have those beachfront properties. We got this lovely little penguin just down here, looking for its burrow in the bushes around here. We've got a couple of burrows in this neighborhood. And this penguin has one of those $1 million beachfront condos. So lucky to be that penguin. Easiest access to the beach, smallest commute possible to get back into the water. He is living the life. Some of these other penguins, not so fortunate. They sometimes have to walk upwards of almost 2 kilometers to get home, which for such tiny little legs is quite a big commute, especially when you compare it to the penguins who are lucky enough to have these ones right down near the beach. Tons of preening happening. Any more questions, Steve?
Yeah, Danny's got a really great question. Is there occasions where the little penguins don't return home for a few days?
Absolutely. So there are definitely occasions where our penguins don't return home. Our penguins do sleep out on the ocean. In fact, they spend 80% of their life out on the water. So yes, we definitely have times when our penguins do not come home on an evening. And that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly natural. In fact, we'd be a bit concerned if penguins came home every single night. Because that'd be a very busy night, night after night. We'd be getting 3,000 penguins every single night, which is a little bit, which would be amazing, but at the same time, we'd be wondering where they're getting all their food from. Because sometimes they get unlucky and they have to travel a ways to find their food. I just love watching this preening behavior of these penguins gathered up into this nice little penguin huddle. Let's see if I can zoom in on them. Excuse me. Yeah, so you can really see them getting their beaks around underneath their flippers, around their backs, everywhere you can find it. Some of them are scratching their chests, and some of them might be preening each other a little bit. They can't reach their own necks and heads with their beaks, so they might rely on a friend to help them get those last little bits, make sure all their feathers are nice, and pushing their way through the crowds to get their way home.
Stephen, Kieran would like to know if our population was increasing, if it was decreasing, or if it's stable at the moment, which is a great question, Kieran.
Yeah, so over time our population has been increasing. It's not been a straight line. We count our penguins every few years. And the last count we had was about 32,000 penguins in the colony, up from around 12,000 in 1985. But again, it's not always a straight upwards incline. If you're looking at a graph, it goes up and down and up and down, but gradually climbing up over time.
And we've just had 20 minutes into our penguin count, Stephen.
Lovely. So we got the penguins coming up the Penguin Highway. Really good to see them. So the penguin numbers do tend to die down. I've got a frog in my throat. Do you mind taking over for a bit, Sue? So I
No,
can
not
hear
at
you?
all. So, okay. I've actually got another question that I could probably answer myself. How old are the penguins? So our penguins are different ages, probably ranging anywhere from perhaps 3. Perhaps some of our penguins are 17 or 18. And our oldest living penguin, believe it or not, was about 26 and a half years old. So the penguins are pretty lucky because they look the same age for their whole life. So their feathers get molted once a year, so always look nice and young, lucky penguins.
A 26-year-old penguin was quite an old penguin. Would have been a great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Maybe more. Still got a frog in my throat. But luckily for me, the stream is winding down. So I will be able to rest my voice. I'm not used to talking so much. It's usually going so long in isolation at home. Tend to lose my voice really quickly.
So we've had some lovely messages from you guys tonight saying thank you to all the rangers for doing such a wonderful job. So thank you for all those lovely comments. And we are, we've really missed everyone. So we are looking forward to welcoming you all back really soon. And I think someone even said in the comment they already had a ticket when Metropolitan Melbourne opens. They've already got their ticket and they're keen to get on down here. So we can't wait to see all our Melbourne visitors as well. It's very exciting for us.
Yeah, we are very keen to see all your faces back at the Penguin Parade. It's one thing seeing it on Penguin Live TV. It's another seeing it in person.
Absolutely.
All right, we might end the stream here now before I completely lose my voice for the evening. I do want to thank you all very much for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing Penguin Live TV, and I want to say a big thank you to Sue for joining me on screen tonight.
It's been absolutely an honour to be on the screen tonight. Very exciting. A little bit nervous for me, but very exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, and make sure you tune in tomorrow night where we're going to be doing our world first of streaming this in Japanese as well as English. We'll have a bit of a multilingual stream tomorrow night where my wife is going to be doing the Japanese portion and Sky will be her presenter, helping her in English. So it'll be a very interesting stream tomorrow night. So feel free to join us and say a big hello to all of our Japanese viewers tomorrow. But that's all for tonight. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
See you, everyone.